Listen up. There's no more excuses. We're empowering those who want the hustle by exposing the status quo.
The days of ordinary are over.
It's time to crush mediocrity and start discovering your greatest potential.
Welcome to the Hustle Nation.
To the Hustle Nation.
To the Hustle Nation.
To the Hustle Nation.
Welcome back to another episode of the Hustle Nation podcast. Today, as always, we've got a real treat. Samantha Bennett is in the house. Samantha helps overthinkers get it done. Keynote speaker, author of the 15-Minute Method, and other very interesting books. Samantha, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. It's great to have you. I can't remember where it was we met, but I remember our conversation, and we were talking about your books and mine, and you had some fascinating books that you have written. And before we get into all that good stuff, though, I want to talk about your journey, because it's a very interesting one, and how you got to where you are now.
It was completely inadvertent and sideways.
I love that.
So many good stories. Where I ended up is not where I thought I was going. But yeah, I started out as an actor. I was one of those kids who put on plays in the living room in the backyard and went to theater camp and did all the plays in school, and I grew up in Chicago and ended up with a job at the Second City, which meant that I was hanging out with some of the great comedic minds of our time. There's a picture of me from my first wedding, and there's Stephen Colbert and Steve Carell and Jim Belushi and Neil Dallas and Amy Sedaris and like all of us just hanging out. Adam McKay, Rachel Dratch. We all just, we were just kids going down to do a show for $75 or something. And I had one of those acting careers in first in Chicago and then later on in Los Angeles. Doing a lot of theater, a lot of improv comedy, a lot of some TVs, a lot of radio stuff with celebrities, which was fun. And it was, successful enough that a person didn't want to give up on it, but not so successful as to be able to support a person. So that meant that I had a lot of different jobs and gigs and projects and shows and producing. And along the way, I got super interested in this question of how do highly creative people make decisions? When you are good at a lot of things, how do you know what to do? When you have something you're passionate about, how do you know how to promote it? Should you have a podcast? Should you sponsor a regatta? Should you stand on the street corner with a sandwich board? Like, what do you do? And there's no right way, right? There's no right way to be an entrepreneur. There's no right way to be a friend or a parent or a writer. There's just your way. So I started to teach a class called Get It Done. And I thought, well, that's a dumb name. I'm going to have to change that. And now it's like my whole brand. It was like the year 2000 or so. And it was in a church basement in Van Nuys, California, and charging people, I don't know, maybe $75 and feeling really weird about it. And it really just grew from there. I found out that actually having a business is like the greatest art project of all time. And I wrote my first book, Get It Done, From Procrastination to Creative Genius in 15 minutes a day. And wait for it, it got endorsed by Seth Godin.
Very cool.
Yeah, I was kind of not over it.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be.
Yeah.
He walked like the captain of the football team just walked past my locker. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Have you met Seth yet?
I have met Seth a couple of times. Yeah. He's delightful. He's a wonderful man.
That's fantastic. Yeah, we actually in our business we modeled a lot of what we do from a marketing perspective around Purple Cow. So very much
there you go. Yeah.
Very much a follower of Seth.
Yeah, he's terrific. So that was it. And then it just grew. I started a business knowing nothing about business. Really nothing. But I made it my business to learn. And I read all the books and went to all the conferences and sat in on all the webinars and took all the notes. And it turned out it wasn't that hard. That really entrepreneurship is about showing up, being authentic and real, telling great stories, and being of service to people. Just like acting.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
But how does acting or any of those things translate to being an author? There are plenty of actors and celebrities who become entrepreneurs at a later stage in life, but you
Mm-hmm.
don't hear the story very often. And I don't say like wrote a book means they're an author, because many of them have ghostwriters.
Sure.
But you're a real author. You've published multiple best-selling books. How does one
Yeah.
go down that path from acting?
Well, I'll answer perhaps an unspoken question first, which is, or if nothing else, just to reassure listeners, if you all have a child out there or a friend who is like threatening to pursue the performing arts and you're nervous about it, let me reassure you that first of all, the chances that they will actually pursue a career in the performing arts is pretty thin. And everything they will learn as your kids, learn about theater, learn about music, learn about performing, learn about dance, is going to be so useful to them in their life. Like even just the ability to stand up in front of a room and talk to people, which is something that very few people want to do to begin with, much less understand something about presence and something about voice and something about breath and something about body language and something about language and accessing emotions and being able to read other people and be in communication with them and history and costume and ensemble. In the theater we call it ensemble, in corporate I think they call it team or teamwork or something. Go team. So and really, theater teachers save lives, music teachers save lives, band teachers save lives, dance teachers, like, go give those people a raise. Wherever you are, go find them and give them some money. So that's step one, is I think that a career in the performing arts or training in the performance arts sets you up so beautifully for whatever it is you want to do in your life, right? The journey from actor to author, I think, actually started the other way. I learned to read very early, and I love reading. It's possibly my second favorite thing to do. And it was a very short step for me from reading and wanting to share the story. Somebody asked me once about the first play I remember doing, and I said, "Oh, I remember doing a production of Stone Soup in kindergarten. You know that folktale, Stone Soup?" Yeah. And my mom happened to be there, and my mom said, "Oh, Samantha," she says, "No, you didn't just do it." She goes, "You produced it." She said, "You made them do it. You brought in the script, and you brought in the costumes, and you made them do it." And I'm like, I was 4. Like, I didn't even know what a play was. But it was that exact drive of like, this is a great story. Clearly, we must share this story. We must act out this story. And that's another thing I think people don't always understand about performers, is they think like, oh, they just love the spotlight, they love the applause. No, we don't. Some do, but some dentists love applause too. Like most of the actors I know are pretty shy and often very introverted, but we have this compulsion to tell the story. So for me, I think it was more reading to acting and then just finishing the other half of that circle from acting back to writing.
Interesting, because you don't seem very introverted to me.
I know. I'm super shy. I'm super introverted. I'm just you're
an outlier.
I'm an outlier. I contain multitudes.
So Sam, as you were about to write your first book, I think one of the reasons, there's a lot of people that might have a story they feel they need to tell, but the daunting task of writing your own book seems almost overwhelming, and where to start and how to sequence it and how to set yourself up for success.
Yeah.
Can you share just a little bit about just how you've, not only how you tackled maybe the first one, but obviously you've learned how to do this. I know you speak to this and train in this and things like this too. So, could you just speak to like how might you start the engine kind of going forward down the track?
Yeah. You're exactly right. I think a lot of us get an idea in our head and you can sort of see it in your mind and it seems really beautiful. And whether it's write a book or rehab the whole house or take a trip to Italy or whatever it is, lose 50 pounds, I don't know, whatever your vision is, like you can see it. And then it just seems completely insurmountable. Like, how would a person even begin to do such a giant thing? And I had that exact same response. and I also had the thing, like, I felt like I had to figure it out inside of my mind first. Like, it had to be perfect inside of my mind before I could even start. So, like, should it be a workbook? Should it be like one person's journey through? Should it be sort of an allegory? Should it be this? Luckily, I do this for a living. So I was like, wait a minute. You are putting artificial barriers in between you and the thing you want. So I thought, well, why don't I let the project tell me what it wants to be? Why don't I let the book tell me what it needs to be? So I started to carry around index cards, which are my favorite anyway. And anytime I had an idea for something that I thought should be in the book, I would write it down on the index card. And then I would put it in a big manila envelope on my desk that was labeled genius. And I did that for a couple of weeks. And once the envelope seemed reasonably sized, full, I dumped them all out onto my dining room table and just started to sort them out. Like, oh, well, here's all the stuff about perfectionism. And here's all the stuff about marketing when you don't feel comfortable marketing. And here's all the stuff about how to organize a project when there's no quarterly review on how your novel is going, right? Yeah. How do you stay motivated when nobody else cares but you? And sort of let it shape itself from there. And it was fun to get a little more serendipity into the process. And then sometimes when I was writing and I didn't know what to write on, I would just reach into the envelope, pull up a card and be like, there we go. I'll write about that.
Genius. That is genius.
Just to carry on a previous comment you made as well, right? So if you're about to take on a book, or to your point, really any project, right? And you alluded to this before of, people that are highly productive people that maybe can do lots of different things, and how do they make choices and decisions and things like that. I have to imagine, whether it be that project or any project, there is this risk of paralysis by analysis, even when you try to break it down. Right. Mm-hmm. And so can you just speak to, how do you help coach people through creating that prioritization in their mind? Right. So, like, as an example, if you want to write a book, everyone's going to say they don't have the time. You absolutely have the time. It's just, how are you prioritizing and how are you attacking it? And so can you just speak to, how do you start to kind of get that in your head about how do you start prioritizing? What are the things you need to do to get to your goal?
Yeah, and you're exactly right. It makes me crazy when people are like, oh, I don't have time. I'm like, how is that possible? We all get the same 24 hours. Of course you have time. We all get the same amount of time. That's just the way it is. And as we know, time management is not about time, right? Mm-hmm. And really, your question takes me right to the 15-minute method. I mean, this is exactly why I wrote this new book, is because I kept hearing people tell me that they didn't have time. I kept hearing people tell me that they were so overwhelmed, which is another word that we could get rid of, that they're so busy. Like, y'all don't get bonus points for busy. You know that, right? All that tells me is you don't know how to control your calendar. Don't stop saying you're busy. It's not cool. But what I really want, and the whole point of the book, is to say, take the things that really matter to you, that would make a difference to you, inside of you. I don't care if it matters to anybody else. And spend 15 minutes a day, every single day, on that thing. It's subversively simple. It's deceptively simple. But the benefits are endless. And part of it is just from a sheer place of well-being. We get everything done for everybody else all day long. And then we feel burnt out and exhausted and very, very tired. Yeah. On a soul level, we feel very, very tired. And so I really want people spending 15 minutes a day, again, on whatever that thing is that's going to light them up inside. And if it's writing, great. If it's going out and sitting in the garden for 15 minutes with the sun on your face, great. If it's dancing or playing guitar or tying flies or raising lizards. I don't care what you do.
Yeah.
But taking even a little bit of time every single day lights you back up. It puts a little light in your eyes. It puts a little spring in your step. All of a sudden, all that other stuff that you still have to do, we're all, so of course you do. But it makes it a little bit easier. You just get that lovely spillover effect. A little bit like, when you've just had a hot date the night before, or you went to the gym in the morning, you just spend all day being like, that's right, I'm amazing. How are you?
So how do you balance that with kind of the deep work concept? So, there's, to your point, the 15 minutes is, and we talk about kind of both these things, right? It's called, call it the 1%, call it the daily focus, call it, it's all in that kind of sphere, right? But there's this other element of deep work, and, it takes you 17 minutes to basically get ingrained into some sort of deep thought and deep work. So how do you balance those two?
I think you balance them by balancing them. I think you've answered the answer is inside the question. You balance them by understanding that they're two different parts of the same process, and don't be mad at one because it's not the other. Right? Don't be mad at yourself for not doing deep work when you've committed to spending 15 minutes a day on something. Don't be mad at the deep work when you're not, flying around getting a million things done all day. They're both important parts of the process. Let each be each. But I think a lot of times people stop themselves before they even begin with this feeling of like, well, I would write a book, but I need 3 months in Provence, to even get started. Well, I would clean out the garage, but I need 2 free weekends. It's like, I really hope the Provence thing works out for you, but it's not, but I'm not seeing it on your calendar. And, 2 free weekends, really? When are those going to happen? And I guarantee you, even if they did happen, you're not going to want to spend it cleaning out the garage. So why not take your mug of tea and just go sit for 15 minutes in the garage and contemplate the garage?
I do that all the time.
Yeah. A garage contemplation moment, right?
Yeah.
And then the next day, do it again. And maybe the next day you go, wait a minute. Those 7 boxes are my brother's. Wait a minute. Come over here and get your stuff. Oh, there's that bike that we've been meaning to give away for the last 6 months. Why don't I just put it on the corner with a sign that says free? And there, that's 15 minutes. Good, done. And now tomorrow, a little more.
Grab a beer and it becomes easier to make those decisions, I think.
100%.
I've said this, Sam, and for tasks that seem so mundane and simple as cleaning the garage or cleaning your house or whatever it may be, I always tell my wife that if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. So even for the most simple things, I put them on my calendar, because if it's on my calendar, it's a priority. And if it's a priority, it gets done. But if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't get done. And it is out of sight, out of mind. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But we do most of us live very busy lifestyles. I've got kids that are, here and there and everywhere in the summer.
Sure.
And so for me, it is at minimum, if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't get done unless it becomes very much a daily behavior. Like for me in the morning, it's working out, but that took years and years of ingraining that to be a daily routine, daily habit. And so I'm curious with this 15-minute rule. Is it as simple as just not finding time, because you'll never find it, but making and dedicating that time to be on your calendar each day or however frequently it needs to be?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a thing on my website. You'll see it at therealsambennett.com. We sell a subscription to a thing called the Daily Practicum. And literally, it's 15 minutes a day at noon Eastern. We get on the Zoom, we say hello, we turn the timer on for 15 minutes, it goes off. How'd you do? And this Zoom room full of people look up at me with this like post-orgasmic glow on their face. They're like, You won't believe it. You won't believe what I just did. I'm like, yeah, I will. I called that person I've been putting off for 6 weeks calling them. I cleared out this much of this junk drawer. I worked on my novel. I wrote some crappy poetry. Whatever it is they did, right? They're so pleased with themselves. And there are some people show up we do it every weekday. So some people show up every weekday. Some people show up occasionally. Other people never show up in person at all. But the fact that it is on their calendar means that they get to it in their own time. It may not be that time, but it's there at some other time. And the other thing I'm sort of hearing this, you're talking about your, workout schedule, which is so great that, you took the time to make it a groove for yourself and now you're in the groove. But I guarantee you there will come a point where that train is going to jump the tracks, like something's going to happen where you're not going to be able to do that for a while. And then all of a sudden it's not going to be a habit. And then you're not the same person you were when you started it. And so like, now I've got this injury, or now I've got this time I need to spend with this other person, or whatever it is. It's, life changes. And I think sometimes we feel like, well, because I can't do it the way I used to do it, I'm not going to do it at all. And the thing I like about 15 minutes is that it's only 15 minutes. Like, play around, see what works, try something, If it doesn't work, great. Try something else tomorrow.
Yeah. So getting to the root of some of that stuff, whatever it is, I was talking about more mundane things that people avoid, like cleaning the garage or working out. But what is the reason people don't? They don't take action, or they're avoiding something. What's the root of all of that, Sam?
I think it's a lot of things all at once. I think most of us got the message in life that what matters is what you do for other people and not what you do for yourself. Right? Women, I think, particularly get that message, but men too. And I hear it all the time, like, well, I can't do that. That would be selfish. I can't take time for myself. That would be selfish. And I always want to say, no. Because what's actually selfish is you walking around exhausted and stressed out and with no sense of humor, and the rest of us have to deal with you like that. That is selfish. That is you calm and clear-eyed and a good listener. We love that version of you. Please be that person. Please do the things that bring that person to life.
I've always said you have to be selfish in order to be selfless. So if you're not filling your cup, you can't fill the cup of others.
Exactly.
I mean, Dustin particularly, I tell him this all the time, like, you got about 150 cups to fill. You need to take care of yourself, whatever that might mean. Our definitions of taking care of ourselves could very well be different things, but I still think it's important. You gotta have me time, and you gotta take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever that might look like.
Exactly. And, we build trust and respect and esteem with other people by keeping our promises to them. We build self-trust and self-esteem and self-respect by keeping our promises to ourselves.
That's deep.
So, yeah. And like I said, there's a real exponential effect. I mean, it's such a small thing. 15 minutes. I mean, you can do anything for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And yet, when you do it, it's amazing what you can get done. It's amazing what you can get done doing it every day for a week, a month, a year, 6 years, 60 years. Right? And again, that little bit of, I don't know, I should think of some cute phrase for this. It's like positive smugness or something, that little sense of self-satisfaction of like, that's right, I did my thing. I worked on my whittling. I want to bring back whittling. That's my agenda.
It's your next book, 15-minute whittling. Right.
Well, and here's my real agenda. Can I step in here with like, this is my evil plan. I want this to not just become like a worldwide phenomena where people are just talking about it like you would talk about anything. Like, oh, what'd you do your 15 minutes on? Oh, I wrote some, a terrible love song. I love writing terrible love songs. Like I practiced the accordion. I, laid out my garden for next spring. I don't know, whatever. Just because I think it's fun and more interesting than talking about what was on television the other night, or, this kind of small talk that we often get into. But I also want businesses to do it. I want it to be a thing in an office of like, okay, between 4:15 and 4:30 every day, or between, 9:45 and 10 o'clock, that's your 15 minutes. Don't work on your to-do list. Don't make your dentist appointment. Don't look at your email. This is your time for you, courtesy of us, your employer. Not only do I think that would be a groovy thing to do, and even just to acknowledge that your people are people with interests outside of work, but also 77% of employees are disengaged. 77%? That is a lot of disengagement. That is a lot of not caring. And that strikes me as a very, very expensive problem to have. And if you can, through the simple act of giving people 15 minutes a day, get people to spark up even a little bit, not only might we be able to drop down that disengaged number, but also, and this is backed up by studies all over the place, when you give people a chance to remember who they are as people, not just as Sam from marketing, but as a person. Oh, I am a person. My grandmother came from Sweden. I like to tinker around with recipes. I don't know, whatever it is. I will have better ideas. I will be more innovative with my problem solving. And I will connect with the other people I work with more because, there's that Debbie down in that cubicle over there. I don't like her and stuff. But then I find out that Debbie does needlepoint. I do needlepoint. And now we're needlepoint buddies.
What's up, listeners? We've got some exciting news. We're launching a community. It's a private Facebook group called the Strategic Sales Accelerator. And we'd like to invite you to be a part of this exclusive group of sales professionals, executives, and business leaders. Members of this group will gain access to exclusive content, trainings, and webinars. Our content is designed to help users gain clarity and connection to the result, build efficiency, and ultimately attract more qualified leads, build more authority, and generate more sales, all without sacrificing burnout. We understand that rising tides lift all boats. And if you're interested in being a part of a community that's as hungry as you are, I encourage you to check out the link below. It takes just less than a minute to apply. So what are you waiting for? Click the link below and jump in now. Now back to the show.
I think one of the interesting dichotomies you have, or I guess specific things you've called out. So the 15 minutes when I first heard it, it's like, okay, carve out 15 minutes creates action, right? So action is always better than inaction, right? Gets the ball moving. That makes sense. But I think what you've layered on top, I think is even more interesting, right? In that when I first heard it, to me, it was just about your to-do list, candidly, right? Which that might be what makes you happy, right? Like to your point of cleaning the garage, whatever. But I think this other layer of saying, maybe it's that, maybe it's kind of the eat the frog sort of thing and, tackle the hard thing first or whatever. Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's just, this is the fun, this is the crocheting or whatever. Right. Talk about that, you want to do whatever the passion that you have that you just want to spend 15 minutes. Or to your point, maybe Chris and I will do this, just sit in the garage and grab a beer or something, look around the garage and see what happens.
Absolutely. And that
Not opposed.
We've got 3 votes in favor of beer in garage. I will meet you guys there. But, we all have these zones of genius, right? Zones of creative genius. That hat tip, first of all, to Gay and Katie Hendricks for their work on this. But everyone has something, and probably multiple things, that they're sort of mysteriously interested in. Like, I don't know why I'm so fascinated by this. I don't know why I spend so much money on this. I don't know why, I always, and your family and friends are like, I'm sorry, you're going to an exhibition of what? You're traveling to where to do why? Right? But those things have to do with your special gifts in the world. And you may not be noticing them because it comes so naturally to you, right? You may not notice it as a special gift or as a zone of genius, but I'm here to tell you that it is. And if you're not sure, and you probably don't notice because it comes so naturally to you, you're like, oh, it's not that big a deal. Everyone can do this. No, they can't. They absolutely can't. And the way I sometimes describe it is, if you're not sure what yours is, it's the thing that if somebody came to you and woke you up in the middle of the night, it was 3 a.m. and they're going, hey, we're going to go do this thing now. Do you want to come? And you would be like, yeah, wait, where's my shoes? Hold on. I'm coming, right? Like that thing, spend 15 minutes on that.
Love that. So, obviously, this is one of the most recent books that you've written. To your point, I'm just thinking about the creative genius that you went through to get to this, right? Because this wasn't where you started. This is where you are now. Can you just talk through some of the other kind of key things in your other books and kind of how they revealed themselves to you? Because I think, just like the exercise you said, I think a lot of times we walk past genius all the time, but we don't really capture it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious kind of how you captured it, and then really how you knew that was the thing to expand upon.
Yes, that's an interesting question. It's actually a little bit my zone of genius. Like my brain just sort of naturally goes, well, how would I figure that out? Well, how would a person know? How would a person? Here's my latest one that I've been trying out on people. You ready? It's a little bit of a 2-step thing. But if you're wondering, like, why are you not more successful in your life? Like, why are you doing all the right things and yet somehow you keep hitting this inner glass ceiling? What's that about? Here it is. Okay. I want you to think of someone that you know in real life, that if you reached out to them for some kind of favor, they could really help you out. Right? So like maybe it's a journalist, then you could say, hey, would you be interested in writing an article on our thing? Or maybe it's, someone more famous than you in your field. You could, reach out to that. I don't know, whoever it is. Somebody has popped to mind that you're like, oh, wow, okay, that would be exciting and weird, but yes. Now, what is the next thought you have? The next thought you have might be something like, well, my thing's not exactly perfect yet. I mean, I wouldn't really want to put it out right now because it's not really ready. Or, well, they're very busy. I wouldn't want to take up their time. Or, what if they say no? I'll be so embarrassed if they say no. Or. But I'm here to tell you, whatever that thought is that made you knock that idea out of your own hand, that's your problem. That is what is holding you back everywhere.
Brilliant.
It's a little uncomfortable, isn't it? It's like, oh,
it is.
Oh no.
It is.
I like
we're going to need
to
shut down the episode. Chris and I have got some things we got to go to.
Do lay down and think about my life choices.
Sam, it's interesting you say that because Dustin and I talk a lot about in sales how a lot of leaders, whether it's sales or not, I guess it doesn't matter, have just succumbed to mediocrity. And I think a lot of times we, as let's just say we are the sales team, we hit a glass ceiling and we accept mediocrity for what it is when we don't have to. And sometimes I think mediocrity is the difference between us being scared of getting rejected, being scared of what people might say or think, or compared to those who don't have those thoughts. Like, yeah, screw it. I'm just going to make the phone call and we'll see what happens, right? Is
yeah,
that
if
fair?
You don't ask, the people who are like, if you don't ask, the answer's always no. Let's call them. And I think sometimes it's mediocrity. I think sometimes it's just sort of group think. We just sort of get into a groove with each other, and then it gets hard to think outside of that because, again, we're tribal animals. We're designed to live in a group, and we want to get along with the group. Whenever people are like, "Oh, I'm a people pleaser," I'm like, "Yes, by design. You, of course, you are." But that, what you're describing as mediocrity, I think there's a bit in there too about overwhelm that's actually underwhelm in disguise. I think if you've got a big to-do list of things that kind of bore you, or aren't that interesting or are part of somebody else's agenda and not really yours, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. When you get that, like, oh, I'm tired before I even start. I'm being pecked to death by ducks over here. Like, this is not good. So if you turn to that sales team and say, hey, we've been getting exactly the same numbers. Let's 10x the numbers this month. Who's in? Who wants to 10x their revenue starting right now? Now I can feel it myself. Like, oh, now my motor's going. Oh, what if I 100x'd it? What would I do? How can I sell 100 times more books than I've sold up to now?
Yeah, tell us.
Really interesting question all of a sudden, right?
Well, I love the challenge of that thinking because it gets you to think differently and bigger and gain some clarity. I refer to it as kind of like breaking up the mental log jam.
Yes.
Sometimes you need to just go way off in left field just to be thinking differently, just to gain different perspective. We often talk, the book 10x is easier than 2x, right?
Right. Exactly.
Right down that level of thinking. But it's not just thinking 10x. It's really just about thinking differently and thinking about different perspective. Like we talk about it with Hustle all the time about in today's world, it's so easy to learn from other people. It has never been easier to learn from other people, right? Obviously, This is a great example. But you only learn if you're curious. You only learn if you're asking questions, right? And I think, so often to your point, I like that overwhelm, underwhelm, right? It's the overwhelm of there's so many choices to pick from. But if you're not really passionate about any of them, right? And so how do you, find that balance and again, I go back to the 15-minute rule, right? So if you find that thing that you're just naturally passionate, for me, I'm the dorky guy. It's business books, right? Like I haven't read like a non-business book probably in 20 years. And my wife and kids, and they're like, don't you want to ever read anything else? I'm like, but this is actually what interests me. Like if it was like, just like some fiction novel like that, I'm good.
Yeah. Right.
Same.
And so if we were going to pursue this idea more, we'd say, oh, so maybe he starts to put out one of those book digest things of like, or you're going to make the world's biggest cross-referencing. If you like this one, then you should also read these two. And if you didn't like that one, then you should totally stay away from this one. And you I don't know, I'm making things up now, but okay, now I'm on to business book game show. who is David Allen?
Yeah.
That would
got
be
that one too.
Fun.
That would be fun, man. I got a whole pile of them back here.
Yeah, your little quiz, your little business book quiz.
I like that idea. Actually, maybe we should start a business book game show.
Yeah.
So Sam, it might be a good time to transition to the Start Right Where You Are book. It seems like there's a little crossover with all three of your books, and rightfully so. It's an amazing topic. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So the full title for Start Right Where You Are is Start Right Where You Are: How Little Changes Can Make a Big Difference for Overwhelmed Procrastinators, Frustrated Overachievers, and Recovering Perfectionists. When I came to my publishers with this, they were like, that title's too long. And I'm like, no, it's not. Because you have not watched people's hands crawl up as the more like, wait, I feel called out. Hold on. And again, we're talking to overthinkers. Let's use a lot of words, The three books you're right. The three books do go sort of hand in hand. Get It Done is really sort of project planning for creatives, for highly creative people, right? How do you get things done? How do you get the word out when you don't really care who's moved your cheese, right? That's another one. Start Right Where You Are is a little bit more about the inner journey of that. And it has I think 67 little teeny tiny chapters, and each one has an action step that you can do right in that moment. So it's not start right where you are like later this afternoon. I mean, now. Find the dead pen that drives you crazy every time you pick it up and go, why do I still have this pen? This pen is dead. Throw this pen away. This pen has served you well. Its time is done. Over it, right? Like,
It actually feels good to do that.
It feels great to do it. And we're not going to wait to clear off the whole desk and, oh, I need 2 weekends and a month in Provence. No, just throw away one pen. Use up the last little bit of the lotion that you're somehow saving for good or something. So that's what Start Right Where You Are is it's really the little teeny tiny, almost infinitesimal things that again have an exponential effect. And then 15-minute method is really diving into this 15-minute thing. And where I was thinking about too is we were talking about the difference between deep work versus bite-sized, just getting started. I want to suggest that in today's world, 15 minutes of you staring at a blank piece of paper is a little bit of a radical act. Like, how do you sit there for 15 minutes with one pen and a blank piece of paper and not reach for your phone?
Yes.
Let yourself be bored for 15 minutes. Remember those long car rides when we were kids, like in the way back of the Volvo? Like hours would go by with nothing. I grew up in the Midwest, so it was just nothing but blue sky and clouds.
Cornfields, of course.
Cornfields, as we would go for, because of course the thing I miss most about Chicago is Wisconsin. We go to Wisconsin all the time, but that's far up to Door County. That's far.
You're speaking our language. I like it.
I know where you are.
I think you're totally right, though. This is why we joked about Chris and I sitting in a garage staring at the walls for 15 minutes drinking a beer. Like, that seems counterculture today.
Yeah, radical, and try telling your children that they're going to have a 6-hour car ride with nothing to look at or do.
Yeah, no Wi-Fi. What?
No Wi-Fi.
Your car doesn't have Wi-Fi?
My mother says that I taught myself to overcome road sickness because I wanted to read so much. She says I just sheer force of will.
Sam, it's interesting you mentioned that about the reading. I, for the majority of my life, I did not enjoy reading, probably because I didn't have anything that I enjoyed other than a Sports Illustrated or a sports magazine of some sort. But fast forward probably into my 30s, I finally got books in my hand that I found interesting, and I could never again use the excuse, well, I have adult ADHD, I can't sit still. And so just this year, I'm on my 21st or 22nd book. I can't remember exactly.
Well
and I
done.
said to someone the other day, I said, I've never enjoyed reading more. And I have this thirst to want to continue reading, and I make time for it. And someone said, yeah, I just don't have time. And I said, bullshit. And they're like, no, I just this and that. And I said, let me zoom out for a moment. On average, outside of a couple of weekends, or maybe I read for 2 or 3 hours, I said, it's in the ballpark of 15 to 20 minutes a day. And that is, granted, there's probably 3 or 4 days a month where I just can't. I don't have the time to read. Right. And then there's a few days a month where I have several hours reading, mostly on weekends. Yeah. And so if you average it out, who doesn't have 15 to 20 minutes a day to do something that they enjoy or something they think brings them value? And so I think you just have to look at it like, that's it. Like, yeah, that's it. That's how 21, 22 books, that's where it'll get you, 15, 20 minutes a day.
You were very close to making one of my favorite sounds, which is, oh. I love it when people say that. You're like, I don't have time to read. Well, you could break it down. Oh. Like, oh, yeah, that seems easier. Oh, yeah, I could do that. Or, oh, that sounds fun.
Usually followed with, must be nice to have that kind of time.
Right? And you say, yes, it is. Please walk with me over here. And I'll tell you what, I do my 15 minutes first thing. I have a little sort of prayer meditation practice that I do for myself before I'm even off the mattress. I mean, I do it before anything happens. I do that. I usually, same. When I take a little lunch break, and I have finally taught myself to actually take a lunch break, I usually have a nonfiction book that I'm reading. And sometimes it's a business book. But right now I'm reading one about the birth of modernist art in Paris. I don't know anything really about art or modernist art, but it's really interesting. And then I have my novel, my pleasure books that I'll read all day if you let me.
Sam, you made a really great point about the pen, throwing away the damn pen that hasn't worked for a long time. When you talk about that, I can't help but think about people who are, we'll say, hoarders to borderline, just unorganized. They have too much crap and just their life is not crystal clear because maybe there's too much clutter in their lives. And I mean that both figuratively and not.
Yeah.
And how much of that is important? Like I look at start right where you are. And one of the things I can't help but think of is the people whose life are just filled with a bunch of things and they don't have clarity. They've got too much going on, too much noise. And I mean that in a variety of different ways.
Yeah. I think we need to look beneath the symptom, right? Because clutter is a symptom. So what's underlying that? Why are there so many things? And is it really a problem? I have what some people might describe as too many pens. I don't think it's too many.
Sam likes pens.
I like pens. And when I turned 40, I was like, this is not a character defect. I'm a grown-up person. I can have as many pens as I want.
Absolutely right.
And everybody else can screw off because they're my pens and I like them. And it delights me. I mean, every time I look at them, I'm like, oh, there's so many pens. So one, is it actually a problem? Because sometimes people talk about clutter like it's the worst thing that could ever happen to a person. It's like, it's not that big a deal, you know? My sister's like, we should clear out your basement. I'm like, why? It's fine.
Bothers her more than it bothers you.
There's not critters. I mean, that's the thing. Is it a problem? Are there critters? Are things degrading? Are valuable things in getting, rained on or something? That's the problem. A lot of times, because again, I worked with a lot of highly creative people. The issue is actually that of love. Like they're so sentimental and they have so much feeling, and we tend to, we'll anthropomorphize anything, like, it's my friendly orange pen. This is my friend. We're a little nutty that way. So all of a sudden, everything I show you, they're going to be like, oh, but I love that. Or I love that. Oh, I love that. We got that on that trip to Florida. I love that. Okay, that's the tackiest Florida snow globe I've ever seen in my life. Really? You really want to keep that? Yes, I love it. Right? And so now we need to sort of parse that apart a little bit. Do you actually love it? Or do you love the memory of it? Do you actually love it? Or do you love the person who gave it to you? Do you love it? Or do you love the size you were when you bought it? And once we can start taking these things apart a little bit, and sometimes with those people, I find if I say, you know what, I've got a friend who is crazy for snow globes. I've got a friend who would love that skirt. I've got a friend who, they all of a sudden go, oh, really? Oh, well then please give this to your friend. Oh, that makes me feel so good to know that it's going to a good home. That's right. So there's an emotional need there that if you just say, well, just get rid of all this crap, they're going to go, it's not crap. It's stuff I love. And I don't want to just get rid of it or throw it away or even just give it to the thrift store. I need to know that it's going to be taken care of. Right. So, take an extra minute to get a little more curious about what's really going on there.
Love that. Last question. You talk a lot about perfectionists and perfectionism, recovering perfectionists. Yeah. How do you know it's a problem or when it's a problem?
Because your hands are chafing from the handcuffs. My whole thing with perfectionism, and I'm really starting to lose patience with the word. I'm like, you know what? Let's pick another word. What's something more interesting than perfect? Do you love the people in your life because they're perfect people? I seriously doubt it. Your favorite books, your favorite movies? Is your favorite movie a perfect movie? No. My favorite movie is a garbage movie that I love and I will watch every time it's on, and I don't want to hear a word against it because that movie speaks to me and my heart. Right? It's not.
You have
perfect.
To tell us what it is now.
No, never going to happen. You're just going to have to live in curiosity.
Must be dirty.
But what could be more interesting, right? This like, well, I don't want to get out in the world because what if it's not perfect? Well, sweetheart, I guarantee you it's not going to be perfect. 100% it's not going to be perfect. Perfect being, it's not going to match this vision that is hermetically sealed inside of your mind. But good news, none of the rest of us can see that. Right? So get it out into the world, and like, what else would be more interesting to you? Do you want everyone to say, oh, it's perfect? Or do you want everyone to say, oh, that was wild? Ooh, yeah, I'd like to put out something that people go, that was wild. Or, oh, that was really stimulating. Like, wow, that sparked a lot of stuff for me. Oh, sparky, good, I like that. Or, oh, that was hard. That was a rough hike, man. Yeah, good, rough hike. Like, what's the result you really want? Because if you're telling me about your perfectionism, that just tells me you want approval. And that is something that you have to give to you.
Love that. I gave a pretty crappy TED talk on perfectionism, so I love the subject.
Yeah.
But one of the things I say often, and Dustin's heard this, so I'll give the Cliff Notes version of it, is when I was interviewing for a job with Quicken Loans a long time ago, they have these things called Quicken-isms, and you're supposed to familiarize yourself. One of them was, and I think there was maybe like 13, but it's essential. It's like their core values. And they say good is good enough. And as they elaborate on it, it's basically perfect is the enemy of results. And so I thought about that. I'm like, everywhere I've been in life, it's always like, it's got to be this. It's got to be this standard. And it resonated with me and still does to this day, because they said the more time you spend trying to make things perfect, the less shit you're going to get done.
That's right.
Yeah, like that's an hour more you're losing today. And if you do that 50 times a year, you lose 50 hours of the company's time and money and yours. And I thought, holy shit, the level of output you could get by just giving it your best and then moving on. That was one of the most powerful things I had learned in my early 20s about business. And I said, that's a culture I want to be a part of.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's a bunch of studies. I read one not too long ago about a photography class where they were divided into two, and half the class was told to take the best pictures they could possibly take, and the other half was told to take as many pictures as they could possibly take. And guess who wins? Right?
As many.
Guess who comes up with the better stuff? Which reminds me, I have a friend who's a professional photographer, and she said her mentor always told her, well, Erin, the first 1,000,000 frames are the hardest. Everything we learn to do, we do incrementally, So yeah, take the 15 minutes, get a C, stop trying to get an A+ and everything. It's 15 minutes. How perfect is it going to be? And you're going to do it again tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day.
It's a great place to wrap it up, Sam. Thank you for being here. That was an awesome conversation. Before I let you go, where can everyone find you? Where can they get a copy of your books?
Yes, the books are available wherever you like to buy books. They're on Amazon and Kindle, and I did the narration myself, the Audible for all three of them. So that's available if you like to listen rather than read. Support your local independent bookseller, please. And where can you find me? Yes, I'm at therealsambennett.com, and I'm on all the socials as The Real Sam Bennett. My team keeps threatening to make the fake Sam Bennett, which I think would be going, don't do anything, no one cares.
That's awesome. Well, Sam,
and now I'm waiting for Business Book Game Show. You can tour conferences with that.
Let's do it.
I'm telling you what, right? That's a good idea.
That's good.
I'll give you that one for free.
You have to be a part of it. It was your idea.
I'm in. Let's do it.
All right. For all the listeners out there, thanks so much. Sam, thank you for being here. We appreciate you. We appreciate the ears. See you next time. Peace.
Thank you for being part of the Hustle Nation. If you're serious about raising the bar in your personal and professional life and willing to go all in on your success, head over to hustleleaders.com. Here you can get access to our Hustle Productivity ebook, attend our Hustle Masterclass, or challenge yourself to the 30-day Hustle Challenge. Pairing these tools and training with the Hustle Nation podcast will help you advance to a whole new level. Until next time, stay hungry and inspire those around you to hustle.